Welcome to week 1 of the Sunshine Cal, which has been designed by Vanessa Smith. I've put this video together to help those of you who are not familiar with making a granny square to get started. Please be very careful not to put chains in between your clusters in the granny square. The chains must only be in the corners. This is very important to ensure that you have the correct stitch count before you start the next part of this project. You will be making 13 rows and your final count of stitches will be 39 double crochets at the end of row 13. I will show you how to count those stitches when we get to that point. It's important to note that we will be using US terminology in this pattern, not UK terminology. Okay, let's get started with our granny square. There are two methods for creating the foundation for a granny square, one being the magic ring. If any of you elect to use this method, please be very careful to secure the ends very carefully when you're finished, so that the work doesn't unravel from the center. I'm going to use the more traditional method of using chains to start the work. So we start off with a slip stitch. I'll do that again. And the slip stitch is formed by crossing the yarn over your fingers and pulling through. You then have a stitch that moves. I'm going to start by doing 1, 2, 3, 4 chains. We're then going to join the work by inserting your hook in the first chain and pulling through a slip stitch. At the beginning of each of the rows in the granny square, you will do 2 chains. These 2 chains form your first double crochet of every row. So we're going to do 1, 2. The double crochet is formed by putting the yarn over the hook. You then go into the ring, fetch the yarn, pull it through, yarn over the hook and take off 2, yarn over the hook and take off 2. So that's the first double crochet, second double crochet formed after the 2 chain. Yarn over the hook, into the ring, pull through, yarn over, take off 2 and take off 2. We now have our first 3 double crochet cluster in the granny square. We're now going to make a corner by doing 2 chains, and then we're going to do another 3 double crochets into that ring, exactly the same as you've done the first lot. 3. We now have 2 clusters. 1, 2 chains to form our corner. Bear in mind that all squares have 4 sides, so it stands to reason that our foundation row of the granny square needs to have 4 clusters. Each of these 4 clusters is separated by 2 chains. The 2 chains actually form the corner. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 3 double crochets. We're now going to 1, 2 and into the second chain of our starting 2 chain, we're going to insert the hook and pull through a slip stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, which is now our square. There are 2 schools of thought on the continuing of the granny square. One is to continue to go round. My preferred method is to turn the work. So I'm going to start off by doing my 2 chain, which is the first double crochet of the next round. I'm going to turn the work and I'm going to then work into the first corner of row 2. Corners are formed by having 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and into the same hole another 3 double crochets. Okay, so there's our first corner formed. We do not make any chains now. We go straight into the next available hole and we make another 1, 2, 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. So if we look at this, each corner on the row 2 must have 1, 2, 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. No chain in between. Go straight to the next hole, 3 double crochets, 2 chains, 3 double crochets. We're going to now do the third corner, and that's 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2 and 1, 2, 3. Just to reiterate, the chains form the actual corner and you have a set cluster of 3 double crochets on either side of that corner. So we're going to do the final one. 1, 2, 3, 2 chains and 1, 2, 3. We're now at the start of the row. We need to join this bit here to the beginning. Again, we're going to go into the second chain that we made, which was our first double crochet, and pull through a slip stitch. 2 chains, which is our first double crochet of the next row, turn the work and we continue. We are now on a straight edge of this particular square. So we're going to start by just doing 3 double crochets. Because it's not a corner, we don't need to put the chains in here. We're then going to go into our first corner and do 1, 2, 3. And if you recall from the previous row, we now need to do 2 chains and another 3 double crochets into the same hole. So here we have our straight edge. So we have 3 double crochets. In our corner we have 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. I'm now on a straight edge again. So here we just have 3 double crochets and 1, 2, 3. We're now in a corner again, so it's 3 double crochets, 2 chains, 3 double crochets, no chains, straight into the straight, and 1, 2, 3. And we now have a corner, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take you to the end of this row and then I'm going to leave you to carry on until you have completed 13 rows and have 39 double crochets across each side. And we're now coming to another corner. And we're now at our beginning point again, and here we are going to join with a slip stitch again into the top of the second chain. Okay, so let's have a look at our square and how it's been formed. We started with the 4 chains, which we then joined into a loop, and then we proceeded to do 3 double crochet cluster, 2 chains, 3 double crochet cluster, 2 chains, all the way around until we had 4. Then we then joined with a slip stitch and we started our second row. In the second row we formed 4 corners. These corners consisted of 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. At the end of the row we joined again with a slip stitch, and on row 3 we had a straight edge. On the straight edge we only do 1, 2, 3 double crochets. We then do a corner, and the corner consists again of 3 double crochets, 2 chains, 3 double crochets worked into the same space. We worked all the way around, and again we joined with a slip stitch. I'm now going to leave you to continue until you have 13 rows like this. To count the rows is very simple. Start in the middle and 1, 2, 3. I found it easiest to count on the corners. And when you get to the end of the 13 rows, you should have the 39 double crochets. I will then show you the next step in the pattern. Right, welcome back. Now you should have completed 13 rows, which when we count from the center to the corner should be 13 rows. If you then count across your work, starting from the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 times 3 is 39, so we have the correct number of stitches. Because of the way I make my granny square, I've finished up in the center of the square. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fasten off, and I am going to rejoin my yarn in a corner. So all we're going to do is just secure that. Oops, I've dropped my yarn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first corner after the join, and I'm going to start with a standing double crochet. This is my preferred method. Some people would prefer to start with 2 chains in this instance, but I'm going to start with a standing double crochet. To do this, make a slip stitch, holding the short end in your hand away from the hook. Go over the hook once, and then into that corner space, pull up a loop and go through 2 and go through 2. Pretty straightforward. I'll show you that again. So we start with a standing double crochet, slip stitch, yarn over, into the corner, fetch the yarn, over, through 2 loops and through 2 loops, and you have a standing double crochet. Then what we're going to do is we are going to do another double crochet. I'm just going to give my hook a bit of a rub, it's squeaking again, and 1, 2, 3 chain. Then we're going to do another 3 chain. Why the hook's so squeaky today, but I hope you can tolerate it. Now, sorry, I've gone too far. We only need 2 there. So it's 2 double crochet, 3 chain and 2 double crochet. Now, very, very important. Vanessa's pattern calls for us to miss the first hidden stitch. Now, to identify the first hidden stitch is quite difficult unless you have come across this before. So, let me show you what it is. If I move the work out of the way there, you'll see that first double crochet there, the top of that stitch, that is the hidden stitch. So in this particular instance, we are not going to be working into that hidden stitch there. We're going to skip that one, and we're going to go to the very next stitch. We're going to start there. And we're going to do a double crochet all the way along until we get to the opposite corner, and the last double crochet will fall in this stitch over here. So let's do that quickly. I think I'm a little bit nervous, so my hands are sweating a bit, so please bear with the squeaks. I'm sure it'll get better as I get more comfortable with making these videos. So we're going to just do a straightforward double crochet all the way along this edge. You've been doing double crochets. The only difference being here is that you're working into each of the loops at the top of the stitch of the last row. So we're going to go all the way across. And we're getting closer now. It's very important to keep counting as you're working through this cowl. If your row counts are not 100% correct, subsequent rows will be a problem and it'll just become extremely frustrating. So please take the time just to count at the end of each row. And now we're at the end and we're going to do our corner, which is 2 double crochets, 3 chains, 2, 3, and another 2 double crochets in the same space. Okay, so let's see what we've got here now. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42 double crochets along that edge. And if you check on the pattern, you will see that that is what Vanessa requires you to have. Let's just look at the second side here. Again, it's very, very important to skip that first hidden stitch and then do exactly the same for the next side. So you will end up with 42 double crochets, including the corners, from side to side. I'm going to leave you here to complete that.